What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Inside the Forest. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Well, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. And how are you?
I'm doing all right. Hannah's making fun of my drink that I got too much caffeine in there. So
I was like, are you seriously drinking that energy drink at 11 o'clock at night?
but it's not. Is it an energy? I guess it's an energy
It
drink,
is an
right?
energy drink. I mean,
Okay.
it's a
Well,
quote unquote healthy one, but it's an energy
yeah.
drink.
There's no sugar. I don't care. If as long as there's no sugar in it, that's fine. So anyway, welcome to Inside the Forest. We've got a lot to get into because this past week we just experienced the season finale of The Acolyte, which I do feel like this thing went by pretty quickly.
It did.
Season. I mean, 7 weeks, because the first week was doubled up, but we are at the conclusion now, and, there's going to be a pretty good hiatus right now until we get the next series, which is Skeleton Crew, and still don't know date for that yet, but definitely later in the holidays of this year. So we'll get into that, and got one bit of news that we'll talk to, but first and foremost, of course, thanks to our patrons as always. Really appreciate your support. We got a lot to share of their thoughts from this finale. So we'll get into that here in a second too. And, just Hannah and I were talking, we're going to aim for next Saturday, the 27th, for our Rogue One commentary.
Oh, goody.
Yes. I think our patron Darth S&M said he can definitely make it on there. So hopefully that's the case still, Darth. We wanted as many of our patrons on there as possible. Mm-hmm. Love having those conversations while we watch, and I think this is going to be a fun one to find out where we are. And I love it too because the last time I did a Rogue One commentary, we didn't have any context like from Andor like we do now. And so there's whenever these things come out and there's supporting material, it's like that's part of the process. Is does this change the perception of this movie now and these characters and stuff like that? So it'll be good discussion to talk about. So
yeah.
Okay, the only really big bit of news is centered around the comic book publishing of Star Wars. Now, I haven't had a really good chance. I haven't had really that much time lately to kind of see what Comic-Con has in store for us next week.
Oh, shoot. That's next week.
That's next week.
Whoa.
And unlike last year, if you remember last year, it wasn't very eventful because Marvel wasn't there. Mm-hmm. DC wasn't there. There wasn't a lot. There was a little bit of Star Wars publishing, I think, because there was no Star Wars movies that, really there. So, Disney really didn't do much there. So anyway, this year it seems a little different. There's going to be Marvel's doing another Hall H. DC is going to be announcing a lot of stuff, with James Gunn now, the kind of the CEO of DC Studios now. And apparently now Star Wars, as far as I know, Star Wars isn't going to be there talking about like the movies or shows, but they are talking about publishing, and there's a lot to talk about with the books coming. Phase 3 of the High Republic is still going on, but this there is a comics. The comics right now are taking place. The main storylines like Star Wars and Vader are taking place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and those will be coming to conclusion this summer as they come up to the events of Return of the Jedi. So there's a poster out right now. You can kind of see it says the new era of Star Wars comic book storytelling, and it says October 2024. So there's going to be a lot talked about at Comic-Con apparently where this direction is going, but what it looks like is that they're going to continue what they started, which now this is going to be post Return of the Jedi storytelling now. So, obviously there's a big gap now from you're talking, because what they've done really now is they've filled in the gaps, right? They filled in the gap from 4 to 5, that 3 years in between there. And now they did 5 and 6, which was only about a year. But now there's 30 years between 6 and 7. And there has been content in that, in that gap, right? We've gotten TV shows, we've gotten novels, we've gotten some comics. So now I guess they're just kind of starting to fill in, which I'm curious, because is there going to be a lot of Luke? Is there going to be a lot of Leia? Because we don't really have a lot of that, right? So that would be very good. I think, it's possible we might get a lot of what happens to the Empire when they leave after the Battle of Jakku and they go to the unknown regions and, whatever. I think there's a lot of storytelling there. I think that's probably what needs to be done to fill in that gap leading up to The Force Awakens, because, The Force Awakens was just a lot. There's a lot going on there you really didn't know the backstory of.
Absolutely. And I'm very, very glad we're going to get to fill in those gaps. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, great. We're even more behind beyond
true.
the talk.
Well, yes, we do have to get some catch up going on there. Yes, I thought about that too. I thought about us knocking a few of those out at some point here soon.
Oh, yeah. Did you finish Rise of the Red Blade?
I have not yet.
Oh!
I know. I didn't. I will finish that here soon, though.
Okay.
I will finish that here soon. Okay. Anyway, that's really, we don't know any details of there. Just kind of throwing that out there that is coming in October, but there will be some details released next week at Comic-Con. And I don't anticipate anything coming from Lucasfilm on the live action front at Comic-Con, but what I do expect is just a few weeks later in August, D23 is being held in Anaheim. That's where I expect a Skeleton Crew trailer and probably the announcement of this rumor that there's another animated series in the works.
I swear, if it doesn't come out, what the heck?
Yeah, I know. They got to start ramping up that marketing for Skeleton Crew, because we have no idea what that thing is about. So, okay, just again on the publishing side, we've got July, a couple weeks left in July. So Darth Vader 48 will be out next week, and then Darth Maul, Black, White, and Red #4 at the end of the month, July 31st. And then, of course, August 30th, mark it down, Star Wars Outlaws comes out. I cannot wait for that. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we actually just got another comment from a patron, so we'll read that here in a second. All right.
Live.
Yes.
Coming to you live.
All right, so let's get into this, because this whole what's that?
I just wanted to say, were there any comments you wanted to read on our previous episode?
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
Before we jump into this episode.
You are exactly right. We do have a few comments here. Let's see. So Darth S&M actually says, I really liked getting the second flashback episode from the Jedi's perspective. It was all Torben's fault. If he was a halfway decent Jedi, none of this would have happened.
Oof.
He says Scriffin Padawans. How did he become a master? I mean, do you want that punk training Padawans? For Criff's sake, no wonder the Jedi fell. Regarding the disappearing witches, what happens when you use the Force to disintegrate yourself? Even the archers were gone. Is there such a thing as Force teleporting? As usual, we got answers and more questions. I just need the Sith to tie up all the loose ends so they can be done with this complete breakdown of Jedi procedure. Start fresh and dark. Rhetorical question. They have spaceships with hyperdrives, lightsabers, and hologram communications, but nothing more sophisticated than a metal detector? Come on. You know what we've seen much of in this show? What we haven't seen much of in this show? Droids. Other than that little one of OSHA's, Pip was its name, I think. Anyone else notice? Thanks for taking my request on commentary into consideration. Much appreciated. Till next time, Darth S&M.
To quote one of my favorite vines, "Watch your profanity."
Yeah.
I mean, all valid points, though.
Very. And I actually, when I actually read this comment the other day, and I was thinking, you're right. Normally there are like more droids and more. You know, Pip is the new droid they're trying to introduce, but you know he's not in it that much, and he doesn't move on his own, right? So
Right.
it is a little different.
It was weird. I would have thought the Jedi at this point would have had more droids.
Well, we should have saw Huang.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, he's around. That would have been a cool thing to see him like sitting in the, you know, walking around the temple or something like that.
Like even just a little cameo.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, David Tennant is too expensive.
Well, that's true. Nah, he didn't have to say anything. He could just walk by.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Thrawn says, I love Vanestra and one of my favorite characters from the prequel era. If I'm being honest, I would have preferred she stayed dead from Dark Disciple. The Dark Disciple book, due to how powerful that sacrifice and ending was. Saying that, can I really complain that we are getting more Ventress? If they can explain in a very inventive and cool way how she survived or brought back to life and maybe reunite with Voss, then I'm so on board for this. Think I would have loved this in a live action more than animated, but can understand why they are sticking with animation. That was us making the assumption that the next animated series is about Ventress.
And I agree. If there's a solid reason why she's still alive, then I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too.
Especially if we get Voss back.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, and we were told in Obi-Wan that he's still alive, so it's like you got to have some Voss in there.
Yep.
He goes on to say, I agree with Hannah being quite a big Harry Potter fan. The actor that played Umbridge was amazing. She made you absolutely hate her. A bit biased being from the UK, but the Harry Potter franchise is one of the most well-casted franchises.
It is.
Yep, there you go. Okay.
It is.
Let's see. On Patreon, I think we had some episode 7 reactions. Let's see. I don't think we read these, right? Yeah, Darth S&M just said, again, how the F did Torben become a master? What a punk. To the agricultural core with him.
That is an excellent question. That is.
Yeah. I know it. I agree.
Like, what the heck?
Draconis Rex says, sometimes something has been gnawing at my brain. What if all the witches were dead victims of the great hyperspace disaster who were reanimated by the two mothers? And when Mother Anastasia was killed by Saul and Indara vanished Mother Coral, they went back to being dead.
Oh my word. Whoa.
That's a very, very interesting thought. Yeah, I don't know. That's really deep.
Whoa.
That's really deep.
But that would make sense why they all died.
Totally. That they were connected somehow, right? Or something, I guess.
And that would also explain why there are no other kids among them.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's interesting. That's a good one.
That's a very good one.
Yep, I like that one. Did I do? Let's see. Yeah, I had a force reaction. Episode 7. So Thrawn on mine, he said, this flashback episode felt a bit short for me. Feels like there was no huge reveals. The episode contained stuff we already knew or things we have predicted already. I agree with you. What they did actually wasn't as did what they did wasn't actually as they were making it out to be. Enjoyed spending more time with these Jedi characters, but needed more than 2 flashback episodes with them. I did like the idea of the reason they were there was to look for a vergence in the Force after the planet recovering from the hyperspace disaster from the High Republic novels. 1 episode left, and unfortunately don't have high hopes they are going to stick the landing. The story is there, but just feel motivation of certain characters and execution of story has been this season's downfall. And then one of our newest patron, Kimura Jade, says, I feel like Torben's desire to go back to Coruscant didn't seem like a good reason to be the catalyst to the whole situation too. But I'm also highly suspicious of how Saul and Torben were acting on their impulses here to begin with. There's just that inkling of wrongness to it, and I think what we're going to find out is the stranger or some other dark side entity was there in some capacity manipulating their emotions, making them stronger, giving Saul that she's supposed to be a Padawan feeling to lead to the outcome we see. Torben was definitely being manipulated by at least Mother Anastasia, and maybe what she did to him just stuck. But since we didn't see what happened to May, I can't help but think the stranger was there manipulating them in the background, then scoops her up right after. Editing to add, I'm also wondering if Osha being the Acolyte was the plan all along. We know the Sith have no issues putting plans into motion that takes years, decades to be fully realized. This could be an example of that. Yeah, good. Obviously we'll talk about what happens obviously in this finale. I remember reading that, Kimura, too, that when you wrote that yeah, it definitely felt like they could have been manipulated, or it seems like they might have been manipulated. But
oh yeah,
but we'll talk about that in the end. What may have happened, but I'm with you. I still think the decisions they made weren't as bad as they ended up being portrayed as.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the comments so far. I don't think there were any on. Let me see if I think our Facebook group might have had something, but let's. No, that's number 8. Okay. Yeah, we had Zach on the Facebook group talk about number 8, and we'll get into that here.
All
okay,
right.
so ready?
Are you ready?
I think so.
I don't know if I am.
Well, look, I think the bottom line is I've seen it. I watched it for a third time tonight before we recorded.
Impressive. I watched it twice.
You've watched it twice. And I didn't do, and I apologize, patrons, but I didn't do a forced reaction. I uploaded Hannah's up there, so we can get into those reactions here soon. But I didn't do one yet because I honestly didn't have my thoughts together yet.
Oh, if you watch my video, it's like, what? But what about like, that's literally what the video is. It's so, I think it's the most scatterbrained I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, and that's a good way of describing this episode, I think, because to be honest, after my first viewing, I did feel like it stepped it up a little bit.
Okay.
My first reaction was like, I thought, okay, that wasn't bad. Like I there were some good moments. There were some good sister moments. I thought Saul was really good. I did the fighting was obviously incredible.
Oh, of course.
So I was drawn into it. Then I'm sitting there, talking to my daughter about it, and I'm like, wait a minute, should they have done that, or does that seem right? So then I started questioning myself on some of these things. And this was Tuesday night, so I didn't watch it again for a second time till Thursday last night. And I thought last night, I'm like, well, I'll watch it again. I'll do a force reaction and post it. But after I watched it again the second time, I'm like, I still don't know where I am with certain things. So I'll just say before I hand it over to you, I'll just say overall, I do like it, and I think that I think right now I understand how it ended and where it was going. I still overall as a series or as a season, I feel like I went into this with the expectation that we were going to be getting a lot more perspective from the dark side than we were from the light side, because I feel like this season was more about the Jedi than it was about the Sith.
Yeah.
And maybe we're going in that direction if there's more seasons of the Sith, which it kind of leads itself down that road. But as far as the season goes, I think they missed the mark on some things. I think there were some good things about it. It wasn't I thought it was going to end up being my favorite series. It was not. It's not my favorite series. So I'm still on the fence of where I am totally for the entire season, but I feel like this episode was a little bit of a step up than what the previous couple episodes have been. So that's where I think about the overall. What do you think, Anna?
So I think my reaction could be a what? Because I can't tell you how many times I said that throughout this episode.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Master Soul. Okay, so the only reason why you want Osha and May to be together is to justify your actions? Oh, Venestra, you're now willing to lie? Oh,
Right.
the stranger isn't Plagueis, because I swear we saw Plagueis in the cave.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait, so Osha is actually now really powerful in the Force? So May is now a good person? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
It completely flipped.
like, so that, like, the is very much my reaction throughout the entire episode. It just, I don't know. I can appreciate what it's trying to do.
What is it trying to do?
I don't know. No. I appreciate it's trying to take Star Wars to a different time in the timeline.
Yeah.
I can
Definitely.
appreciate it's trying to show how the Jedi are falling, and I think weaving in the politics was absolutely brilliant. I can understand why Venestra would lie. Like, the entire time, and this is in combination with the last episode, I'm like, all of this would have been solved if you just did this. And I don't understand why the Jedi need to be so prideful that they don't want to be kept in check. Like, I don't like that feels like every celebrity who's made a wrong choice is because they surrounded themselves with yes men. Which, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to have a close circle of friends, I want them to be friends to be like, hey, yo, idiot, don't do this.
Right.
Like, I want accountability, because that's only going to make... So, how did that just makes me realize the Jedi got to a point where they were so prideful that they didn't think they needed accountability. So, in my mind, it makes me go, wow, the Jedi suck. In this timeline, they do. Especially if they're lying about their actions and she pins the blame on this dead Jedi now. Now, don't get me wrong, I will say this, like, I'm watching House of Dragon at the same time. And House of Dragon is using a lot of CGI. They're using a lot of LED lights, LED screens to help. If you have time on Max, there's a behind the scenes documentary series. Highly recommend you watch it. It's very cool. But that's why I appreciate Star Wars, because they use so many practicals, and it just makes it feel more real. Because there were several times during House of Dragon where even my husband's like, "Oh, green screen, oh, CGI."
Right.
So I will say, like, set wise and makeup wise and fight wise, breathtaking as always. Especially that fight between Soul and the stranger. Whoa. That was fantastic. And also, we now know, okay, Venestra was the stranger's master.
Yes.
So that brings into question, okay, a really long time?
I know. Yeah, 100 years.
Okay.
Or, well, between 100 years.
Yeah. Maybe he learned Plagueis's, because we see that figure, and if you look up what Plagueis looked like,
Oh, it's definitely Plagueis.
it's
Yeah.
Plagueis. Like, it's no one else.
No,
Like,
it's definitely
it's
Plagueis.
Plagueis. Which makes you go, okay, what is the stranger really up to? And yada, 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 yada. So that's kind of where I am. It's my mind's still scrambled with everything.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite. It does not beat Andor. It does not beat season 1 of Mandalorian. But, like, I feel like this last episode was to me, it felt like a hodgepodge of things that didn't necessarily make sense, if that makes sense. Like, I never sensed Osha's anger throughout the entire season. I've never sensed that. I've
Yeah.
never sensed Soul being someone who's only after himself to prove that what he did was the right choice. And at the end, he was redeemed. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about the twins,
Okay.
because I think Osha, I get what they're trying to do, which they're trying to justify her turn, and
Right.
their explanation was that she had all of these feelings, as a young 8-year-old or whatever they were, and never got told the truth. So all she got told was that May killed everybody, and this hatred and this loss, which are dark side feelings, never left her. And that's, again, I agree with you. Like, the first few episodes of this season, there was no hint of that, really. I mean, she's been living her own life for a while now. What, 8 years or so, 6 years or so. So, it's, I guess the trigger of coming back and knowing now and all this stuff kind of, but again, I think going into this last episode from episode 7, I feel like it was fairly predictable that she was going to be the one that turns, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, in May, I mean, even though she wasn't turning good, but she was wanting to get away from, the stranger and that whole commitment and stuff like that. So, the fact that they change sides in a sense, or that, I don't,
Yeah.
that's not as big as a reveal or a twist or whatever for me. And I don't know, this is where I'm kind of still contemplating, is I don't know how much I care about them being created.
Right. Like,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a part of the virgins, sure, but
Yes, and they didn't really, because obviously the witches are dead. Anastasia is dead, so there's no one there to really explain what she really did. Did she? I mean, Saul just said, I think that she created you from the Force because of the virgins that's here.
And I wonder if because they weren't able to say the truth, it makes me go, oh, it's not that important.
Or they don't really know how to explain it yet. You know, like they just kind of threw this concept there thinking, well, maybe we'll figure it out later, you know, or, you know,
Right.
it's almost like this unfinished concept. And, you know, and I know it kind of is, people out there are saying it flirts with the concept of Anakin, and, you know, it doesn't. This is a
different.
separate, yeah, it's different. And again, the fact that they're the same person, it's like, I don't know if that, I don't know what that matters, because they're completely separate because she doesn't even have any memories anymore.
I guess we'll find out next season.
If there is a next season, right?
There better be. You can't end a season like that.
I agree, but you know, it's all about the viewership, right? And
It
we'll have to
is.
see what the numbers are. So, you know, so with the twins, it's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. You were trying to kind of point us in one direction, and you turned the other way. And Osha's now the acolyte, whereas it seemed like May started out as the acolyte kind of thing, right? So,
Right.
and now, okay, so now, like you said, Saul, the last surviving Jedi of the Strangers' onslaught, and the four that were originally on Brendok. I think Saul was a really strong character.
Yeah.
I am sad to see him go, but he had to go. I think there was no way he was going to survive this episode. And I agree with you. I think it's horrible that he is going down in the history books as somebody that has falsely committed these crimes.
Which I can't believe Venestra would do that.
I know, and and we'll get to her in a second. But that is you're right. That is because I want, you know, I want to go back to when you were saying about, you know, that the Jedi, the viewpoint of the Jedi could be, you know, that they're not that great or whatever. But we do have to remember that, you know, the mistake of one shouldn't affect the many.
No, I realize that, but
'cause-
at the same time, anybody in power should have accountability. That's why we don't have a dictatorship. We have a presidency. We have a democracy.
Sure. Well, and I think that I'm curious because you know, people, again, just a reminder, at this point in time, I believe there's like 10,000 Jedis.
Right. There's
I mean,
a lot.
there's like a ton. And it's funny because Corey was over here tonight, Master Koo from,
Aww.
yeah, and we were talking, and he's kind of joked, and he said, you know, I feel like at this point in time, there's just like a lot of bad Jedi, like not highly skilled Jedis.
They're naughty Jedi.
Right? Like there's so many,
Yeah.
you know, when you have a lot of something, your quality kind of, you know, diminishes. And so, and plus, if you think about it, they're training all these Jedi, but there's not really a lot of conflict going on, you know, so they're not like fighting a lot and training. I mean, they're training, but it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's like everybody's a Jedi now,
Well,
which is not the case, but
as you read in Rise of the Red Blade, even though there wasn't conflict going around, the Padawans found conflict with each other.
yeah, true. Yeah. So I think, you know, Saul, I think, you know, when we see the start of this series, I feel like he's learned to live with what happened just because he has convinced himself that they did do everything they could and they did everything right. Obviously that wasn't the case with Torben and Kalnaka, but you know, I think he was going down, living his life thinking that, I got to, whatever happened, I got to put it past me, and I just got to go on. And, but he obviously felt that it was, just reliving all of this was much more on his mind than
Oh
anything. But,
yeah.
that's again the part I've struggled with him is that connection that all of a
Mm.
sudden he wanted to form with OSHA. Like, it was kind of out of the blue, and I'm just not sure where that came from, other than a reason you got to put in the storytelling to connect them to. But why was he so drawn to them? Was he just so enamored by how they were created? Just,
I mean, it could just simply be because I feel like, especially in Rise of the Red Blade, whenever it comes to a Padawan, like they go in the middle and a Jedi Master says, "They're my Padawan." It's kind of it's a connection in the Force. So it could be he felt a connection in the Force and he just thought, "Oh, they or she is supposed to be my Padawan."
yeah, maybe, yeah, yeah,
Or maybe he was getting so stir crazy as well that he was like, "Oh, a purpose!
yeah, yeah,
She's my
yeah.
ticket out of here."
And then what I was gonna say was, we get introduced to Senator Ravencourt here, and I tell you what, the one thing I am interested in, which they did bring this up earlier and then now, is I am interested in a little bit of the politics side of things here,
Absolutely.
and the Senate side of things, and this oversight committee that this senators want to do. So I get it. I do think that that's an interesting concept to go down. And I am interested in that because for one, I will always say that I have, my feelings and my thoughts about the Jedi throughout these years have always been that they're nothing short of the good guys, and they are the ones that, like Mace Windu said, we're keepers of the peace. They're the ones that are saving the galaxy from just falling into turmoil and war. And so it is hard for me but I understand that by doing this, by making hard decisions, that they're not flawless. They're going to make mistakes. But it's hard for me to swallow when they're intentionally making mistakes or they're intentionally lying.
Yeah.
So that's the part I struggle with, because I agree with you. I think that there's some oversight or whatever needed. Now here's my thought about it, because I always thought that the council has always been known to work with the Republic, right? Work
Right.
with the Chancellor's office. But it seems like, because that's all we've known really during the Skywalker saga, it seems like now in this era, and we'll learn probably down the line, way back when, how this all established and got going. But I think how long have the Jedi been operating
Right.
fully independent? Because it seems like if just now they're talking about this, I mean, it's been 25,000 years.
It must have been a talk since the beginning. It has to have been.
For 25,000 years?
Well, maybe. Well, no, no. When the Jedi Council was formed and it started getting involved with the
Well,
Republic.
we don't know that
We don't
timeline
know
fully
any of
yet.
that, but I'm saying that's probably when at least one person was like, "Hey, accountability."
Yeah, well, I guess, and maybe again, I think there's always cooperation. I just don't think there's oversight, right?
Right.
The Jedi are always, even Vanessa is saying it, that they've always been transparent. They've always been working, and they go to the Senate when they need to talk to them. And that's why this conversation also went. It was like, why didn't you bring this up? She's like, well, we're handling it internally. So I think that's where he's coming from now. The senator is like, well, what makes you decide to do stuff internally versus ask the Senate for help
Right.
or give us an idea of what's going on? And I do struggle with that, to be honest. Again, just putting my thoughts together, it's like, the Jedi, the code of the Jedi is that they are keepers of the peace. They are there to try to keep society safe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you remember his conversation in this episode, which was pretty cool, I mean, he's basically talking about someone like Anakin.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, what if someone goes rogue and goes bad? How are we going to stop them? How are you? And it's interesting that was kind of mentioned in a way to kind of foreshadow that a little bit. But
oh yeah.
So I don't know. But I don't know. I think I think again, it's one of the things where I think we brought it up to where it's like the Sokovia Accords. It's like how much can they be policed because they can't. Somebody else can't be telling the Jedi when they should go or when they can't go.
Because then it's too late at that point.
And it's too late, yeah, because then there's too much indecision. So they can't be controlled, but they got to be worked. So that's where I think
it's accountability.
It is, yeah. But the council is there. They have their own accountability.
Well, from an outsider, they have their own accountability within their own accord versus an outside accountability.
Well, yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Like, that's the thing.
Sure, but a lot of I guess it depends if you consider them a private organization or a public organization, because private organizations don't have outside councils.
Yep.
So it is, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And obviously that's, this again stems from, if you think about episode 3, when, Palpatine is the one that decided to put Anakin on the council. I mean, that wasn't the way Jedis do things, but at that point, they have to listen to what the Chancellor is doing. So, and I think this is a stem from that. This is where we're kind of beginning to see the beginnings of that. So,
oh, absolutely. And I know that the whole idea is of this is how the Sith kind of infiltrated the Jedi.
Yep.
I believe the political side plays just as much as a part as the other.
Like what? Like, what do you mean? Like, explain that.
Well, the other meaning, like the literal Sith infiltrating the Jedi versus the political side, where it leaves a perfect pathway for Palpatine to have the power that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just saying both play an equal part.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So are you saying that are you saying, because this is kind of what I'm saying now.
Yeah.
So are you saying that this oversight now, this governing body now that's going to be taking a look under a hood of what the Jedi is doing, that this opened the door for the Sith to start manipulating their way through the galaxy?
Absolutely. While I still believe that the Jedi do need accountability.
Yeah.
That
completely is the reason why I think that this downfall started.
Look at Palpatine's history. He's very good at looking at a situation and twisting it to his own benefit. Whether it's truthful or not, with regards to it being within his benefit. Like, for example, the Jedi. He's like, oh, they led a coup against me. Don't you see the Jedi are trying to overthrow me? Okay, that's a half truth, but that he twisted it to his advantage.
Right. Totally.
Like, so for this, he could be like, oh, that is a good thing the Jedi are being held have accountability, but I could then use that to control the Jedi. We don't even know if Palpatine is even alive at this point.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either, but I'm just saying, I think it opens the door for that. It opens
No,
the
it
door
just
for that control, but nobody
yeah.
expects that.
No, it totally lays the groundwork for something for a door opening for sure. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I love
Which
how.
kind of yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was about to change points. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, I love how both of us did not vocalize how Yoda was at the end of the episode.
We'll get there. But let's go kind of on that Palpatine route because, like you said, we saw Darth Plagueis introduced.
I cannot believe they actually went with his OG alien race.
I totally agree. I'm very surprised by that.
I cannot believe it. Oh my gosh! As soon as I saw that, I was like,
yes.
What?
Now, did you find it odd though when it happened in the episode?
When they left the planet, yes. I was like,
well, it was like 5 minutes in the episode.
I was like, so his master is on the same island. What is he doing?
Yeah.
He's there. He's watching you do it, which makes he goes, well, Osha's dead. Like, that's where my mind goes.
Agreed.
Like, it opens so many more questions. I just don't get the Sith. Like, I listened to the book Lord of the Siths, which I know we'll get into in Beyond the Saga.
Yeah.
But even listening to that, I'm like, I don't get y'all's relationship. You hate each other, then you love each. Like, that's a bad romance. Like, or romance. Sorry. Because I like employer employee is wrong. Like it's so weird.
It is.
So how can he be like okay with this guy trying to train up somebody when he knows, oh, that means he's about to kill me because the rule of two.
Yeah, and here, my question is, so now I believe this is canon. Darth Plagueis' master is Darth Tenebros.
I think that is canon.
Yeah, and because I think it's in a novel or it's in a book that. So that's the thing is the stranger actually his master is the stranger actually Darth Tenebros?
There's no way.
I don't know.
No.
Or is he literally just there letting the stranger or whoever Darth name he ends up adopting, freely go out there and look for an apprentice. Now, this could be all part of some master plan that Plagueis is trying to obviously figure out the whole create life thing, which is probably the case. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like, I felt it was odd placement. Now, I read an article of an interview with Leslie Headland.
Okay.
And she did say that the original, and there was always the intent to have him in the episode.
Right, of course.
But he was actually, the shot was actually going, or the introduction of him was going to be where Yoda is shown. It was going to be at the end.
Okay.
Which that makes more sense to me.
Yes.
Because it was weird to see him at the very beginning because right there you're kind of telling me, okay, we're going to come back and explain who this guy is, because think about the people that don't know who Darth Plagueis is. Like my wife who watched this.
Who's this weird guy?
Like, oh my God. I mean, my youngest daughter saw that and got freaked out. Like, because she thought that was one of the creepiest things she's ever seen. And but no one knows. Like, they didn't know who he is. Even my oldest knew the name, but didn't know what Plagueis looked like. So I was like, because I was freaking out. Like, we're watching it, I'm like, whoa.
I even had to Google it. Like, I paused it and I'm like, I'm going crazy. What was what? Like, I had to Google it to make sure I actually was seeing what I was seeing.
Right. So yeah, it's Darth Plagueis, and right when I said his name, my oldest was like, "Oh, that's who Darth Plagueis is," and I'm like, "Yeah." So, but the fact that they didn't go there back there at all, and they didn't explain, it was that to me was a little weird.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
So we'll see. I mean, obviously, it's trying to set up for season 2. We'll see if it gets into. But I question. I think obviously I think he's the master. He's the master to the stranger.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just curious. Like, part of me is like, well, maybe he's the master, and he sent Plagueis out there to do, as an apprentice, sent Plagueis out there to do a mission.
I
and
think
he's
what it
trying
is
to find a replacement.
I think Plagueis knows that there's something very unique in the Force about these twins. So
Okay.
I think that Plagueis is letting this play out because he's like, I'm going to learn how to gain eternal life due to these twins.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and what's funny is, like, in the Acolyte data, like, on StarWars.com, the episode guide for this episode, they have a data bank that they introduced for all the new stuff, and
Yep.
they
Please
have
tell me
not
Plagueis.
they have
They
not
haven't.
added a Plagueis yet. No,
What?
they have not added a data bank entry for Darth Plagueis.
So did we
yet.
see Plagueis' brother?
Although actually, I just searched them. They do have it. They do have it in that it is the picture from the Acolyte.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so it is Plagueis.
It is Plagueis, and here's
All right,
the description.
confirm.
Here's the description they have. It says, known in some circles as Darth Plagueis the Wise, the Sith Lord Plagueis was once the mentor and master of Darth Sidious. According to legend, Plagueis was so powerful that he could use the Force to influence midichlorians to create life, and possess the knowledge to even evade death. In the time of the High Republic, Plagueis was already actively working against the Jedi, many years before the fall of the Order. But Plagueis was killed by his apprentice, the former Sheev Palpatine, after teaching his pupil all he knew. So that's a little interesting that he talks about Plagueis was already actively working against the Jedi.
Okay, so this
so
must
anyway.
be it. This must be a search for a long life.
Yes, yeah, you're right. That's probably it. So before I talk about Venestra, I do want to briefly talk about something that I thought was actually really cool to see, even though we've heard about it, read about it. But the bleeding of the crystal.
I loved that moment because that's what happens. You steal another Jedi's saber and you kill them. That's what causes a crystal to bleed. You force a crystal to bleed, which is why in Jedi Survivor, Jedi Survivor, when
Yes.
that High Republic character comes back and then you see him break his crystal and make it bleed, I'm like, that's not technically how it happens, but okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, theoretically you can, because we've seen Ahsoka do it. We saw her stop a crystal from bleeding with the Force.
Well, she healed the crystals. Yes.
Yeah, she healed it with the Force. So I guess theoretically that could work. But with this, I was like, it was so cool to see it in action. To see,
Yes.
like, it's horrible how it happened, but it was like, ah!
Yeah, because the only other time, like you said, you mentioned, Jedi Survivor, he bleeds the crystal, and then we've seen Kylo Ren's bleeding his crystal and he cracks his crystal when he's bleeding, and that's what causes it to have that crackling in his saber. So it was interesting to get. Now here's the thing. I actually don't think I fully new on the canon side is that because we have been told and shown is that Kyber crystals are white, clear, right? They're not colored. They're not blue and green. That doesn't dictate the color of your saber. So crystals are white, and we've seen in Clone Wars that they call out to you, the Padawans that go search for them, in what's called the Gathering. Like in a cave full of crystals, there's only one that is singing to you, right? So you go and find that crystal, and that's your crystal, and then you build your saber around it. Blah. Now, apparently, because I don't think in canon we haven't seen this, but when you ignite your saber for the first time, it adapts a color, right, for you, right? The green or the blue or the purple. And so what I didn't know what it looks like is that the color of the crystal changes to that the color of the crystal changes to that color, right? Because if you look at this crystal that she's holding before she bleeds it, it is blue.
It is.
It is blue. And if you look at the saber after he cuts the strangers, that crystal sitting in his saber is red.
Yep.
So so I guess we can kind of safely say in canon that the crystal does change colors once it ignites, because I got to look back in the comics, like when Vader in the Vader comics, when he kills that Jedi, takes a saber and then bleeds that one, like I want to say I got to look at it because I always thought they were always white, that the blade it's a combination of just the saber and the essence that it's. I didn't realize that it actually changes the color of the saber or the crystal. So and even the Kylo Ren one I felt like was white as well when he bled it, but could be wrong. But maybe that again, this trumps everything anyway. This live action trumps everything. So
right.
But here's the thing I want to point out to everybody that I've seen a lot of people online questioning, like, well, how is just holding the saber changing the color of the crystal? Right?
It's not just holding the saber. It's the act that you're doing. It's using the Force. It's all that hatred is cracking the crystal and forcing it to bleed.
Correct.
Especially in the act of murder. And that's why normally when a Sith wants to become a Sith, he has to steal the saber of another Jedi, murder them, and that's what helps them make the crystal bleed.
Yes, but just remember, in every instance, though, Vader, Kylo Ren, and then I think I can't remember the guy's name in Jedi Survivor, but they're holding the crystals and they're making it bleed. So what we've been told, in a sense, is that you've got to be holding that crystal, and basically you're bending the will of the crystal to the dark side, right?
Right.
So all I want to point out to people that are like, well, she's not holding the crystal. If you pause the shot, I just want to point this out because this is very important. If you pause the shot, the crystal, it's cracked out of the saber. It is touching her skin.
It is.
It is touching her skin. You can see.
I'm glad you picked that up.
Totally. Because I had questions about that. I was like, you can't just be bleeding it without touching it. And you can see there's like, there's veins in her. It's touching her. And it's a great shot of the red kind of bleeding into the blue.
I mean, they made a very clear point of showing that the saber was cracked to the point that the crystal was exposed.
Exposed, exactly. So that kind of alleviates, it should alleviate everybody questioning, like, well, she's not
either
holding
that
it.
or Osha.
Like, she didn't know what she was doing, but the emotions in her.
Yeah, it's either that or Osha is so powerful in the dark side of the Force that she didn't even need to hold it in the palm of her hand. It just
but
happened.
I hope they keep it like that. I like the fact that.
No, I like that. I like it too. I'm just saying,
it has to feel what you're feeling, and
no, I'm saying I like that, but I'm also saying it wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
If.
But the fact that, and I love the fact that we saw the blade, Now that was pretty neat. That was
That
pretty
was
neat.
cool. That was
Yeah.
very cool.
Okay, so Vernestra, you
Oi.
know, yeah, I don't know how you feel. I'm not a fan of this characters right now.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm like, you want these people to be on your side. Why do you lie? And then it's also like, well, what the heck did you do to your Padawan that made you think he was dead?
Yes.
And now I'm like, did you like, oh, I didn't like her from the beginning, in all honesty. I'm like, there's something off about this woman.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, even
Yeah.
in reading the comics, I'm like, okay, okay. And then when we first saw her and saw her interactions, I'm like, who put a stick up your butt?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, and especially in this last episode, I'm like, okay, I do not like you at I confirmed I didn't like her when she was like, "You're still alive."
Yeah.
I
No,
was
I
like,
know.
"Oh, I don't like you at all," and then
Yeah,
that was
because
just confirmed.
it seems like obviously that whatever these four Jedi did on Brendok technically already is secondary to whatever she did years ago with this Padawan.
I'll tell you what, when she went in and she was like, "Master, I need help," blah blah blah. What Yoda was cool, but I was half expecting it to be Darth Plagueis.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
was half expecting it. I was like, "Oh, this is the
She's
reveal.
yeah.
This is the reveal. This is how the Sith
Wow.
like." I was half expecting it because I was like, "That's a plot twist and a half."
Yeah.
It wasn't though, but
It
I
wasn't.
like that. That's where I was at with her character. I'm like, is she the
I
acolyte?
know. I know because the thing about it is you had Soul. I mean, the whole time after Brendok, he was willing to confess what happened. I mean, he was
But even though he was willing to confess, it was to justify his actions.
well, or yeah, or admit to his mistakes, right? I mean, he was admitting that he wanted to, get the twins to or to explain to the council what the twins were, so that they went in there. He went in there, wanted to save them from these witches or whatever.
Yeah, and he wanted them to be together on Brendok so that he could show the virgins. And be
Correct.
like,
But since they didn't have both of them, that's where Indara stepped in finally and was like, "Look, they're not going to understand what happened here."
yeah,
So here's the thing: is I get that this mess was eventually, just held from the council. They didn't. I don't think they. I guess they kind of lied. They kind of said that May started a fire. They didn't really lie. They just didn't tell the truth about how everything died, right? So,
yeah.
but again, I don't think that was as bad, and I don't think it would have been different if they walked in there, drew their sabers, and killed everybody, which is kind of where I thought it would go, because it's like that has to be the bad thing to cause Torben at least to take his life.
Absolutely.
But that wasn't the case. But now I'm kind of convinced that whatever Venestra's hiding, that is worse.
It has to be worse.
Right?
It has to be worse. Oh my gosh. It has to be. It's making me go, what the heck?
Yeah, which I'm not okay with
No.
right now. I don't know. She's I don't think she's evil. I don't think she's a Sith, but it's like
She's manipulative.
she's not a very good Jedi right now.
We can clearly see that with May. Her interaction with May made me feel all achy. I was like, ooh.
Absolutely.
Manipulation.
Total manipulation.
This.
Total manipulation.
Oh.
And then finally, it's like when she walks in and Yoda's revealed, is she going to lie to Yoda?
What is she going to do with Yoda?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you going to Yoda?
Because for one, Yoda is not going to, I would think they better not turn Yoda into like this liar.
I was about to say, I don't feel like they would, because
no.
Jokingly, I'm like, Yoda is the Darth Sith of them all.
Oh,
like,
no.
it makes no sense. Like, I don't know why would she go to Yoda? Because is she about to confess her sins, and Yoda's like, hey, you need to do this, and she's like, No, I don't think so.
I know, but here's a lingering. I will say this: the lingering question I do still believe that's out there is there's still that line in episode 1 where Yoda tells Mace, always two there are, a master and an apprentice. I have seriously always questioned, how does he know that?
Right.
Because if the Sith have been in secret this whole time,
that's true.
How do they know about the rule of two? This could be how Yoda finds out about the rule of two.
Yeah.
Which means, though, in the end, they're hiding this from the council, because you remember the rest of the council in episode 1.
Oh, that means Yoda's been involved.
I think he's got to have some knowledge, and unfortunately, again, it seems like they're gonna pull Yoda in this to hide something, which I'm not too happy with either. But anyway, we'll see. I think this is kind of what the season two setup is. Vanestra trying to find her old Padawan, and we'll find out what probably that backstory is.
Yeah.
But then Plagueis has got to, take a step further, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe he's just always going to be in the shadows. I don't know. Because the fact that they made him immune, which is that's that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a CG character. Like that's a lot of money if he's going to do a lot of things. And Yoda looked like a puppet, so it doesn't look like they're going to go CG with. Maybe I don't know if they're going to go CG with Yoda.
And they might not go CG with him. Technology has come a long way.
Right. Yeah.
You never know.
I like CG Yoda though, to be honest.
Oh, I did not like CG Yoda.
You don't like CG Yoda?
I like puppet Yoda.
You need CG Yoda to actually see
Maybe
him
because
move.
I love Frank Oz, so I want puppet Yoda so I can live in my fantasy that it's still Frank Oz.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense in like Empire when he's not doing much. He's just kind of walking around training. But like if he's doing a lot of movement and possibly fighting, he's got to be CG.
It felt fake for me personally. That's just me.
What CG did?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Felt too fake.
He's more alive to me when he's got.
I can respect that
when he can actually walk down, walk next to Obi-Wan talking about Anakin or something, So anyway,
I respect that.
I love Yoda. Okay, so what else? Anything else on? I do feel like this is an ongoing thing. Next week, I do want to kind of go more into the overall impact of this series and stuff like that.
Because I feel like I need a whole nother week to digest this whole season. Because I'm still sitting here going, do I like it? Do I not like it? Where do I stand?
Totally agree. Okay, just a couple quick comments on your reaction video.
My
Yeah, Draconis Rex said, much to process we have.
Yes.
When I saw Plagueis' claw at the cave entrance, my thought was, gasp. Shrikara. I don't know what that's from, sorry. Shrikara. Is that?
I feel like it's Huttese.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Then I saw his face, so I was right. The stranger is not Plagueis. Haha, would have been great if a leveler shows up in the show, though. A leveler. I'm not sure what that. I was probably wrong, however, about the stranger not being a Benite Sith. Plagueis' apprentice hints that he almost certainly belongs to the Bane line. Well, absolutely. This is definitely the Bane line, the Rule of Two. That is for sure. So, and then Thrawn says, "Oh, go ahead."
Sorry, a leveler is a powerful nameless that had the ability to overwhelm Force sensitivities and nullify their connection to the Force.
Oh, interesting. Okay, good call. Darth S&M says, OMG, 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 Plagueis. It is canon now. He is immune. So glad that didn't get changed. Boy, I love this episode. We finally get to see the Red Blade being born. Criff, yeah, I was upset that we didn't get a stranger versus the light whip scene. Missed opportunity. In regards to Ocean and May, They were personifying this light side and dark side balance. As one leaned more to the light, the other leaned to the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And that shifted back and forth until Osha fell completely to the dark side. Then May turned to the light. That part was interesting. We all need to remember that we are seeing the subtle manipulation that the Sith are known for. Keeping in mind while watching changes the tone of some of the dialogue. He, Darth Stranger, may be friendly, but he is secretly pulling you into the dark. That made the whole show a bit better in my mind. Seeing the beginnings of the Senate at the end was cool. And then, of course, little green Yoda. Yoda best. May the Force be with you.
Yoda best.
Yoda best. Thrawn says, happy to Plagueis, but was really bad reveal for him just to be lurking in a cave for a few seconds.
Yeah.
And that's it. Mixed emotions on this episode. Loved a lot, but don't quite think they stuck the landing, unfortunately. They set up enough, though, that I'm highly intrigued for season 2, so let's hope it's renewed. The lightsaber fight was amazing and some of the best we have seen, and loved the bleeding of the kyber crystal. It was great to see that in live action. It didn't bother me that bleeding was different from how it was done in the graphic novels. I don't think it was different, so that's why we talked about it, being touched or whatever. I don't know that Basil was doing in this. I don't know what Basil was doing in this episode, or what I think it's Basil was doing this episode, and what his motivations were. Last episode he was trying to catch May, and now this episode he is sabotaging the ship to let her escape. Seeing the senator, I agree with that too. I don't know what.
Yeah, that was weird.
Seeing the senator scenes was great, but this should have been put into earlier episodes to establish the conflict with certain senators and the Jedi. The overall issue with this episode for me was, once again, the twins. Just am not invested in their story, really, and found all their scenes either frustrating and boring, which is a shame. I feel like twins were not needed in this series and could have just focused on the stranger, Sith, and the Jedi. Totally agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So, okay. There you go.
There you go.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us, especially our patrons, and for all the comments. Let's talk fully about this series next week.
Yeah.
So let us know your thoughts overall of the series, where this kind of lands with that's the thing to do, Hannah, is to really think about where this ranks with all the other series. Because we did that last time, when the last series ended, I think I can't remember. I think it was Ahsoka was the last live action one, I think. Mm-hmm. So where does this land? And I'm definitely going to watch this again, kind of really dive into it. And, like I said, overall, I think there was some good parts to it, but was it one of my favorites?
Yeah, I think I agree.
Okay. Thanks for pushing through, Hannah.
Thank you.
I know you're sleepy.
Yeah. Yahoo.
Yeah. I'm okay because I'm drinking 200 milligrams of caffeine right now. So.
That was me last night. I was pumping the caffeine all night last night.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Go to youtube.com/Inside the Force to get all of our other shows. If you're interested in supporting the show, patreon.com/Inside the Force. You can join for free just to get some content on there and, join in some conversations. The commentary we're going to be doing next hour, that's open to all patrons, not just paid patrons. Every patron that's on there, please join us live. It's only on for there. Anyway, so thanks, everybody. Thank you, Hannah, as always.
Thank you, Dave, as always.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.